Hi guys, and welcome to this other video. So today in this video we are going to perform the following five activities. So remember in the previous video we talked about FortiGate SSL inspection. So we discussed the following objective. We saw the different SSL inspection modes. We also talked about inbound and outbound SSL inspection possibilities. We talked about exemption and repeatable websites. We also talk about so we also see the main differences between certificate inspection and deep inspection. So this is an overview of it. So today in this activity we are going to jump on the following activities to perform these five tasks. So just to present you my lab. My lab environment is here on my VMware Workstation Pro. So I have three workstations. One is Windows 10, Windows 11, and the other one is Windows Server 2022, on which we are going to perform task 4 concerning GPO. So here on my all these three VMs are getting their IP addresses from my FortiGate. So this is the FortiGate device, and all these three workstations are connected here on interface 5. So they are getting DHCP IP addresses from this interface. And on our firewall policy, we have this policy which is called port 5 to internet, which is a policy that is granting internet access to those workstations. So if I go back on one of the workstations here on the Windows 10, if I search any website, like for now, by default, the firewall policy that I have actually is not filtering any traffic, so no inspection is actually being done. So if we go back on the firewall policy here and do edit, you will see that by default everything is allowed. So here we have no security profile apply, and the SSL inspection mode here is actually on no inspection. So traffic for now is not getting inspected. So what we are going to do is we are going to begin with task 1. So our task 1 here is to do SSL inspection. So we are going to enable SSL inspection. Then we'll go on this website to see the different types of errors that we can get when we are connected, when our traffic is being filtered by certificate inspection. And we're also going to try this on two browsers that have different TLS versions. So here on our firewall, we'll go under security and profile, then we'll go on SSL SSH profile. So we'll select the certificate inspection profile here, then we'll do clone. We'll just keep the name like this for the clone, hit OK. So I'll now edit this one. So these are the default information. So on the certificate inspection, you have here for block certificate. So this is a list of certificates that are known to be not valid certificate. So by default here we'll say block. So here you can also click to see what are the block certificates. So you will see here the listing reason why these certificates are being blocked by FortiGuard Labs. So we'll keep this as it is. So for untrusted SSL certificate, by default here it is allowed, because untrusted SSL certificate are certificates that are not being generated or managed by the following list of trusted CA certificates. So if you click here, you can see that these are what are considered as the trusted CA certificate list, certification authority list for FortiGuard. So by default here, if you go on a website that have a certificate that is not managed by one of the certificate CA that are listed here, then by default it is allowed, because if you do block, you have a large number of websites that will not be able to access just because the certificate of that website is not part of this list. So by default we'll leave it to allow. And we also have the server certificate SNI check that is also enabled by default, so that we can check to see if the CN and the SAN name provided by the server certificate is the correct information to let the to confirm that the website is secure. So we're talking about certificate inspection. The only port that is inspected here is the HTTP port 443. So it is 443 here by default. So here under common options, you have this. You can filter, or you can choose what to do here. So as we said, invalid certificate, you have what falls under invalid certificates are expired certificate, revoke certificate, and these other two category here. So by default on the certificate inspection, the default certificate inspection profile here, it is set to custom, but you can decide either you are allowing all invalid SSL certificates. It means if your users are navigating on any website that have an invalid SSL certificate, are you allowing it? Will you block all those websites, or you keep it as default here as it is on custom? Custom here, they say expired certificate will be blocked, revoke will be blocked, the validation time out certificate allowed, and validation failed certificate will be blocked. So I'll keep it as it is. Then we'll also make sure that we can log the SSL anomalies. So everything related to SSL here will be logged. So I'll keep the default information as it is. I'll hit OK. So now I'll jump on my firewall policy here. So this firewall policy. So from here, as I said, by default, I created the firewall policy with no SSL inspection or security profile. So by default, it is on no inspection. So here I'm going to select the clone of the certificate inspection that I just modified earlier. So I'll select, then from here I'll hit OK. So now I'll jump on my workstation here. So normally, if you are accessing website that doesn't have any certificate issue, normally everything should work fine, right? Normally everything should work fine if you don't access any website that have a invalid SSL certificate. So now how do you do to know what is going to be what is going to happen if ever you access a website that have an invalid SSL certificate? So as for our testing purpose, you don't really know, you don't really never know what website have an invalid certificate. So there is this website called batssl.com. So the batssl.com is a website that was built so that network administrator you can simulate and see what happens if ever your users are trying to access any website that have the following criteria. So if you are accessing a website that have an expired certificate, what is going to happen? If it is a self-signed certificate, what is going to happen? What error message are you going to have? If you are having you are running web browser that have different TLS version, if your SSL certificate inspection is enabled for the traffic, what are the error messages that you are going to have? So here what we are going to try first is, let's take for example, if we are navigating to a website that have a revoke SSL certificate. So here is what we are going to have. So revoke. So when a user will access any website that have a revoke SSL certificate, this is the error message that the user is going to have, the warning. But from here you can still go either you go back on recommended, or here again you can go under advanced. Then from here with the warning, you cannot go further and access this website, because by default here, remember here on the SSL certificates, if I go back here few steps back, so remember here on common options on the certificate inspection profile that we edited, if you go on a revoke certificate website, or a website that have a revoke certificate, then the certificate or the website will be blocked, so you will not get access to this website. So that is why here on our website we cannot go further. All we can do here is to hit on go back, or you can also click here to view certificate. It's a let's encrypt certificate. The certificate is being revoked. So let's go back. Then guess we are accessing maybe a self-signed certificate, and a website that have a self-signed certificate. So let's hit self-sign. You see, we still have this error message. If I go on advanced, here on advanced, you will see that with a self-signed certificate, we can accept the risk and continue, because here in the firewall policy or the firewall, the SSL inspection here, we don't have any information regarding self-signed certificates. So at this point, what we can do is, if we hit, for example, accept the risk and continue, here we'll display the website. So take in consideration that this is an example of website that have a self-signed certificate. So still, so that you understand very well again, the badssl.com is a testing platform that help web administrators whenever they configure SSL inspection or deep inspection to test and see what will happen or what error messages their end users are going to have whenever they access any website that have the following criteria. So you have, here is the certificate, here you have protocol like TLS, below you have a lot of other kind of or category of information that you can test directly from here. So here we are just trying certificate, as we are actually talking about SSL. So we are focusing on this part. So now that we have thought about certificate inspection, now let's talk about TLS version. So you know, on your workstation or let's say in your environment, you can have multiple users that are running multiple different web browsers, and the web browsers can be running different TLS versions. So you have some people who are running version 1.10 here, 1.1, 1.2. So depending on the TLS version that they have and the one that is configured on your FortiGate device, they might have access to some websites. Some users will have access to some website, while some others are not getting access to that website, just because the web browser that they are using are running different TLS version. Let's check, for example, on this my Firefox. Let me check the TLS version that is configured on my TLS. So here, to check the settings, I can go on about config. Okay, so here is where I can check for some information, some settings related to my firewall or my web browser. So here I will first TLS. So here I will see that the minimum TLS version that I have on my browser here is 2, and the maximum version is 4. So on this web browser, if I try to access a website that is running TLS version 1, you see I'm going to have this this error message, SSL error unsupported version, right? So if I try to access a website that is running TLS version 1.1, you see I have access, because TLS version 1.1 falls under this minimum version 2. So same here, if I go on my my Chrome. So this one is I'm using Google Chrome. This other one would be Google Chrome. TLS version 1.1, same error message. TLS version 1.2, same error message, because on my Google Chrome, the minimum TLS version here is 3, while on Firefox it is set to 2. Let's say, for example, as you see here, when I was on TLS version 1.1 here, I have access to this website which is running this TLS version. But if, for example, I go on my my TLS minimum version here and I modify it, let's say I modify this and set it to 3. Set it to 3, hit OK. Then here I'll go back here, then I just refresh. You see now I don't have access to the website anymore, because the TLS version on my web browser is greater than the TLS version that is being used by this website. So if I go back here and I try now with the TLS version 1.2, so from here, you see I have access to the website. The website that is running a TLS that have a minimum version of TLS 3. So just to let you know that on recent web browsers, the TLS version that is actually configured by default is the TLS version 3. So on most of your browser, you will see that the minimum TLS version is 3 and the maximum is 4. So that means if you are trying to access websites that are still running old or previous version of TLS, your web browser might not get access to those websites. So a little tricky way for you to access those websites is to change your TLS version on your web browser. So I have one question for you. If you are a network administrator in your infra and you have like, let's say you have like 100 users that are behind your firewall and you have this SSL TLS inspection mode that you have configured. So tell me, what can you do to prevent the users from modifying this information on their web browser? If you have the answer, just post it in the comment section. So let's jump into the second task.